Joined by Dr. Michael Savage, host of the Michael Savage podcast and the author of the great book, Our Fight for America, The War Continues. Michael, always an honor, sir.
Carl, a pleasure to be with you. This is a disaster for San Francisco. People used to love this city. It was the crown jewel of not only America, people came from around the world. I live here. You have to see what has happened to understand what this district attorney and the psychopaths called supervisors, the useless mayor, have done to this city. But you're talking about a very particular case of a corrupt district attorney who never, ever should have been a district attorney. You have to ask which side he's working for, who put him in power, who funded him, who keeps him in power. Boudin, son of two terrorists, a lifetime communist radical, lifetime, by the way, call him a progressive, call him whatever you want. Chesa Boudin comes from a lineage of horrible terrorists, in my opinion. Chesa Boudin becomes DA. He's worse than the one who left, who had the nerve to go to L.A. and ruin L.A., the last one. Went to L.A. and ruined L.A., and he was considered more tough on crime than this character. Okay. Who put him in power? George Soros. So all the money, the dark money, goes back to this Soros family. This man is like an octopus. Why does he want to destroy security in the United States of America?
Dependency.
Why does he do this? You have to ask how a Holocaust survivor, and I'll bring it up, I don't care what they say about me, how does a Holocaust survivor like Soros turn on the country that gave him refuge? That's a question that only God can answer. Yep. Carl, I can't answer it. But you have this drug dealing, and just 3 drug dealing convictions in 2021.
Yeah.
And not one conviction for selling fentanyl. Not one. Guess how many died in 20 and 21 from fentanyl? 1,350 people died from overdoses in San Francisco, many of them from fentanyl.
Yeah.
And so how does this go on? How does the population take this, Carl? So they have a recall election. It's coming up.
Right.
A recall election. But what's going to actually happen when you have illegal aliens voting?
Right.
What's going to happen when you have the immigrant rights community, the same ones that given us Dianne Feinstein for the last 200 years,
right,
and the others? They have the machine rigged, Carl, and apparently they don't live in the same world that those of us who walk the streets live.
Yeah,
so this is a nightmare.
It is actually a huge travesty because I've been to San Francisco. It's one of those places that's, it's good from far, but once you get there, it's way far from good. No, it is, and it's terrible. You drive across the Golden Gate Bridge, you're like, wow, this is San Francisco. This is the Golden City. This is great. And then you get in there, and there's just drugs laying around everywhere, and people living in tarps on the side of the road, committing crime, pooping on the sidewalk. So. You have a PhD in medicine, okay? What's your concern here? I mean, obviously, the obvious concern about drugs are bad, but when you have a society that is providing places and needles and things for people to shoot up, now Biden's giving away free crack pipes, what does that do to the structure and the fabric of an entire city or state?
Just take a look at Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, and New York, and we have our answer. And then you couple that with Soros money, putting in soft on crime district attorneys, and then you have what is going on. Now, I have to say this. My podcast that came out yesterday is about the joys and dangers of cannabis, which I know we're not talking about. But cannabis itself is a sell job. Everyone thinks that cannabis is like M&Ms and something good for you and healthful. The opposite is true. The emergency rooms are filled with people going crazy on marijuana. The marijuana of today has about 200 times the potency of the pot from the 1970s. People are cracking up and they're going insane. It is a gateway drug. And of course, every movie shows people, oh, let's go home and smoke a joint, for example.
Yeah.
I want to be very clear. This is not an ethical question for me. It's not really a moral question for me. It's a medical question for me. The drugs start somewhere. You ask every drug addict, whether it's fentanyl, crack cocaine, every one of them started with marijuana. Yeah. Every last one of them will tell you they wish to God they never did. But before I go, Carl, I am not saying therefore go out and drink alcohol, because the answer to all this from the drug users, including the potheads, is, well, you're saying alcohol is good for you. I didn't say that.
Right.
I didn't say it. But don't compare a glass of wine to crack cocaine. And don't compare a glass of wine to fentanyl, which
True.
can be addictive from one dose.
Yeah.
One dose of fentanyl and you're an addict.
Well, and I can tell you, sir, I have addiction in my family. I don't drink. I mean, I have 2 or 3 drinks a year. I don't smoke.
Wow.
I've never even smoked a cigarette because I have seen the addiction in my family, and I just never want to go down that road. So, Dr. Michael Savage, always an honor, sir. We appreciate you having me on.
I really honor your service to America, Carl. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.